Alright, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the absolutely massive controversy surrounding Miley Cyrus's smash hit, Flowers. Now, if you've listened to the radio, scrolled through TikTok, or even just stepped foot in a grocery store over the past couple of years, you definitely know this song. It is an absolute juggernaut of modern pop. But, with that kind of stratospheric success has come an equally massive legal battle. So, is this track a clever, empowering evolution of pop music trends, or is it just an unauthorized copy of a beloved Bruno Mars ballad? Today, we're going to look at the facts, break down the music theory, and explore the lawsuit that has the entire music industry watching. So, to really understand the stakes here, we first have to recognize the sheer dominance of Flowers. We are talking about unprecedented numbers. It became the fastest song to hit 100 million Spotify streams in under a week. Under a week. And it wasn't just a flash in the pan either. It went on to spend a staggering, record-breaking 112 weeks on the adult contemporary charts. And get this, 57 of those weeks were at #1. To put that into perspective for you, the song charted for a full year and a half, and then remained one of the most played songs on the radio for 8 months after that. When a song generates that much revenue and cultural impact, people start looking very, very closely at exactly where its inspiration came from. To get to the bottom of this, we'll look at the ultimate response song, mirrored lyrics and emotional echoes, dissecting the musical DNA, evolving trends in pop, and finally, the copyright controversy. Alright, part 1, the ultimate response song. Before we even touch on copyright infringement, we really need to talk about tradition, because Flowers actually functions perfectly as a response song. This is a totally time-honored tradition in music where an artist writes a track specifically to answer the themes, lyrics, or narrative of a previously released song. In this specific case, Flowers is designed as a direct answer to the narrative established in Bruno Mars's 2012 hit piano ballad, When I Was Your Man. Bruno's song was this emotional lament about regret and a lost relationship. Miley's song acts as the immediate, self-assured counterpunch to that exact regret. Moving on to part 2, mirrored lyrics, emotional echoes. Now, this right here is a brilliant lyrical flip. Back in 2012, Bruno Mars sings that heart-wrenching line, "I should have bought you flowers." Fast forward over a decade, and Miley Cyrus basically takes that exact sentiment of regret and flips it into this shimmering anthem of self-reliance, singing, "I can buy myself flowers." She's totally reclaiming the sadness of the original and turning it into pure empowerment. And those emotional echoes, they continue line by line. It sets up this identical rhyme scheme that makes both tracks feel deeply, almost physically linked in the listener's mind. Bruno sings about how he should have held her hand and taken her dancing, and Miley just responds, "Hey, I can hold my own hand and take myself dancing." The thematic symmetry is undeniably deliberate. It's an artistic dialogue. But it's exactly this symmetry that sparked the whole public debate. Did she cross the line from a clever dialogue into outright musical theft? Well, it's incredibly easy to hear those lyrical similarities when you read them side by side like that. Our brains just naturally want to map the two songs together. But we've got to ask, does the actual sheet music support this illusion of a copy? Does the underlying musical foundation actually match up? Or are we just being tricked by a really clever lyrical response? Which brings us to part 3, dissecting the musical DNA. Okay, let's actually break down the sheet music. When you look at the DNA of these songs, they are vastly different. First off, look at the tempo. Flowers is this upbeat, groovy track sitting at 118 beats per minute. But When I Was Your Man, it's a slow, somber ballad dragging along at 73 beats per minute. And the verse chords? Yes, okay, they both happen to start with an A minor chord. But honestly, if we sued over that, half the pop industry would be in court today. After that initial chord, the progressions go in completely different musical directions. Flowers loops a tight 4-chord sequence, while Bruno's track wanders through a much more traditional, shifting ballad progression. Furthermore, the vocal melodies just do not align. Miley's delivery on Flowers is super rhythmic and grounded. She essentially sings simple quarter notes for almost every bar of the verse, giving it this incredibly steady, driving feel. Bruno's melody, on the other hand, is highly syncopated and uses a dramatically complex, soaring vocal range. If you actually overlaid the sheet music of both vocal performances, the notes literally do not match up. Alright, part 4, evolving trends in pop. So, the absolutely crucial point here, and this is really the core of our story today, is that Flowers isn't just looking backwards lyrically, it is pushing forward musically. Unlike the sparse, emotionally raw piano arrangement of When I Was Your Man, Flowers represents a massive 2023 pop trend. It layers vintage 70s disco-light production techniques to create something entirely fresh. We're talking organic, live strings pushed through Neve preamp emulations to sound like an old record. We're talking a live bass guitar that's muted, distorted, and played with a pick to give it this gritty funk feel. The producers used gated live drums and beautifully arranged a 4-on-the-floor kick drum pattern in the chorus that entirely drops the cymbals for unique, tight sound. This production style is what defined the sound of 2023, completely separating it from the 2012 musical landscape.
And finally, Part 5, the copyright controversy.
This brings us to the reality of the legal battle, because despite all the musical differences we just explored, a major lawsuit was still filed. Now, it is highly important to note right off the bat, Bruno Mars did not sue Miley Cyrus. He is not a plaintiff in this lawsuit at all. Instead, the suit was filed by a company called Tempo Music Investments. This investment firm previously bought a partial share of the catalog from one of Bruno's co-writers, Philip Lawrence. So basically, this is an investment company enforcing what they believe is a copyright claim on a bare fraction of the song's rights.
And Tempo Music's lawsuit is aggressive. They claim it is undeniable that Flowers wouldn't exist without When I Was Your Man. They're claiming intentional copying of melodic, harmonic, and lyric elements, officially asserting that Miley's track is an unauthorized derivative work. They are seeking an underdetermined amount of damages, and essentially arguing that, because the response nature of the lyrics is so clever, the underlying music must also be stolen. Well, Miley Cyrus's defense team completely rejects this, as you might expect. They've officially filed for a dismissal of the lawsuit, and their argument is twofold. First, like we broke down earlier, they argued that the elements Tempo claims were copied are actually just basic, unownable musical building blocks, like starting a sad song in A minor. You simply can't own a chord progression or a basic lyrical theme of buying flowers. And second, they're arguing that because Tempo Music only owns a partial share from a single co-writer, they lack the full legal standing to even bring this lawsuit to court in the first place.
So where is the line between artistic inspiration, a clever response song, and outright plagiarism? As this lawsuit unfolds in the courts and pop music continues to evolve, it leaves us with a totally fascinating question to ponder. Is it possible for an artist to have an emotional dialogue with the past without being accused of stealing its soul? If basic chord progressions and concepts like buying flowers can be locked behind a paywall, what happens to the future of pop music? Think about that the next time Flowers comes on the radio. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.